Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov has announced that at least a dozen nations intend to join the BRICS organization. According to Lavrov, Algeria, Argentina, and Iran have already applied for membership. And the list of nations with plans to join includes Turkey, Egypt, Afghanistan, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Senegal, Thailand, the United Arab Emirates, and perhaps most importantly, Saudi Arabia. The BRICS nations, currently composed of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, already control a large percentage of the global production of key resources, such as gold, palladium, platinum, crude oil, and natural gas. But an expansion, the likes of which Lavrov has proposed, would create a juggernaut with a GDP 30% larger than that of the United States, that would contain over half of the global population. And if Saudi Arabia joins BRICS, well, that puts the whole petrodollar system, a fundamental underpinning of the US dollar's status as the world's reserve currency, in jeopardy. Needless to say, this proposed expansion has serious implications for the global economy, and for those of us in the West, those implications are not good. And that's what we're going to cover in today's video, so let's get to it. Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. I want to say a big thank you to you for tuning into today's video. If you enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up down below. And today's video is brought to you by SD Bullion, so don't forget to check them out with the link down in the description. So before we talk about the expansion of BRICS, let's talk about what BRICS already controls, starting with one of the most fundamental resources needed by mankind: food. In its current form, BRICS claims 3 of the world's 4 largest agricultural producers among its ranks, with China in the number 1 spot, India in second, and Brazil a close 4th behind the United States. The BRICS also control a large portion of the world's mineral wealth. Russia and South Africa together account for more than 75% of world palladium production, more than 80% of world platinum production, and China is the world's largest producer of gold, Russia in the number 3 spot, and South Africa at number 8. Now how about silver, one of my personal favorites? BRICS isn't as dominant here, but still, China is the number 3 producer of silver worldwide, followed by Russia at number 4. So, you get the idea. They've got a lot of minerals. Now, in terms of energy, Russia, China, and Brazil are already on the top 10 list of oil producers. And with the proposed list of new members including Iran, the UAE, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia, an expanded BRICS would hold a tremendous portion of the world's oil and gas production and reserves. Take a look at Russia and Iran. They possess the world's largest and second largest deposits of natural gas, respectively. Combined, they make up more than 40% of proven natural gas reserves worldwide. And back in July, Iran entered into an agreement with Russian energy giant Gazprom to develop its gas fields. But the real energy problem stemming from an expansion of BRICS, it's not how much of the world's gas and oil they will control. The real problem is with Saudi Arabia joining, the world's largest exporter of crude oil. And that problem has to do with how they sell that crude that they are exporting. Since the mid-1970s, the US and Saudi Arabia have had an arrangement. The US provides military security and advanced weapons to the kingdom, and in return, the Saudis sell their oil exclusively for US dollars. This creates considerable demand for dollars around the world, it props up the value of the dollar, and it secures its role as the world's sole reserve currency. And this arrangement has worked out quite nicely for the US, as it has allowed us to export inflation and newly printed dollars around the world, in exchange for real stuff. And we even get the benefit that the Saudis roll their dollar profits into US treasuries, helping to ensure low borrowing costs for the US government. This system is in part what has contributed to the accumulation of tremendous unpayable levels of debt in the US. And the problem is that if the Saudis team up with BRICS and they decide that the petrodollar arrangement is no longer to their benefit, much of that exported fiat currency is going to make its way back to the US, leading to domestic inflation and a spiking cost of borrowing. A vicious cycle may ensue in which the cost to service the gargantuan debt spirals out of control, forcing a US debt default, or possibly a default by another name, paying the debt off with devalued hyperinflated currency. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you have probably heard me mention that a US debt crisis is all but guaranteed, and probably soon. At least for now, though, everything is still holding together. But if we do see the Saudis abandon the petrodollar arrangement and sell their crude oil for a currency other than US dollars, that would be an almost guaranteed trigger for one. And at the moment, US-Saudi relations are on the rocks. OPEC cut oil production against the wishes of the US administration, and the president and members of Congress have threatened a variety of hostile responses, ranging from the NOPEC Act designed to allow antitrust lawsuits against the national oil companies of OPEC members, to the even more hawkish threats from U.S. Senator Chris Murphy, the chairman of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Subcommittee on Near East, South Asia, Central Asia, and Counterterrorism, and a member of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee, who thinks that we should freeze military aid to Saudi Arabia. In the senator's own words here, "I support calls to freeze new military aid to Saudi Arabia. We should also take swift steps in the near term that will provide immediate help to Ukraine and our allies in Eastern Europe. The U.S. should suspend the sale of advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles to Saudi Arabia and repurpose these missiles to Ukraine. For several years, the U.S. military has deployed Patriot missile defense batteries to Saudi Arabia to help defend oil infrastructure against missile and drone attacks. These advanced air and missile defense systems should be redeployed to bolster the defenses of eastern flank NATO allies like Poland and Romania, or transferred to our Ukrainian partners. Policy decisions have consequences, and these steps would right-size the relationship with Saudi Arabia and help Ukraine. Now, this type of rhetoric is a big sign that the petrodollar system is in danger, as military support and access to advanced weaponry are the U.S. half of that deal. But while U.S.-Saudi relations are at a record low, Saudi-Chinese relations have deepened over time. Saudi Arabia has become China's largest trading partner in the Middle East, and their top supplier of crude oil, a position it recently reclaimed from Russia. And in turn, China has become Saudi Arabia's biggest trading partner overall and the largest customer for their energy exports. Back in March, the Wall Street Journal even reported that Saudi Arabia was in active talks with Beijing regarding pricing oil sales in the Chinese currency, the yuan. And while for the time being the Saudis do continue to price their crude in dollars, the Saudi shift toward Asia is unmistakable. Last year, Saudi Aramco's CEO Amin Nasser, in a video speech addressed to the China Development Forum, announced, "Ensuring the continuing security of China's energy needs remains our highest priority, not just for the next 5 years, but for the next 50 and beyond." Most recently, there are rumors of a visit to Saudi Arabia by Chinese President Xi Jinping before the end of this year, although there does seem to be some uncertainty as to whether or not that will actually take place. If it does, though, you can guarantee that energy security will be a hot topic of conversation. On December 5th, the EU embargo against Russian oil, along with the G7 price cap on Russian crude, goes into effect, adding a significant amount of uncertainty surrounding global markets. Perhaps MBS and Xi will discuss a counter move to that scheme, possibly even pricing oil in yuan. That's just pure speculation on my part, but the point is that with the degree of upheaval in global markets as a result of the ongoing war in Ukraine and geopolitical tension in other hotspots, along with the looming risk of sovereign debt crisis and inflation, anything is possible here. Now, author Robert Kiyosaki recently summed up the situation pretty well when he tweeted, "Bye-bye US dollar. Saudi Arabia officially joins BRICS. 1974, US dollar became Petrodollar. Day after Biden pulled out of Afghanistan, Saudis began negotiations with Russia and China. Saudi officially joins BRICS. US dollar toast. Buy gold, silver, Bitcoin. Biden crime family destroying America. Sad." And it's no secret that China, Russia, and Iran have actively sought to undermine the dollar's status as the world reserve currency for decades now. Most recently, at the 14th BRICS summit in June, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that BRICS is working on a new global reserve currency designed to directly rival the dollar. The exact nature of this currency has yet to be determined, but initial plans are to back it with a combination of BRICS national currencies in a similar manner to how the IMF creates its special drawing rights, or SDRs. There are also rumors that it could even be backed by gold or a basket of other commodities. And certainly adding 12 more member nations will give BRICS a much more diverse pool of currencies to back their alternative reserve, and also access to vast commodity wealth to do the same. Now, one interesting twist in this situation that shows us that it's not all black and white is the recent bellicose dialogue between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So both nations want to join the BRICS team, but the Iranian Revolutionary Guard is posting videos to Telegram of a simulated drone attack on Saudi Aramco refineries, while Saudi Arabia is warning the US of a possible Iranian attack. Recently, Iran has been plagued by serious unrest, and in part it blames this on the Saudi media's portrayal of the regime. Last month, Iran's Revolutionary Guard's chief, Hossein Salami, issued the following warning. I am warning the Saudi ruling family, watch your behavior and control these media. Otherwise, you will pay the price. This is our last warning because you are interfering in our state matters through these media. We told you, be careful. And, as a quick tangent aside, I know there's a lot of folks in the US and the West who are upset about human rights abuses going on in Iran, and, rightfully so, it is terrible. But when people start calling for a need to intervene there, we should also keep in mind that the rise of the theocratic authoritarian regime in the 1979 revolution was the direct and predictable result of the overthrow of the democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, by British and US intelligence agencies back in 1953 when he dared to nationalize the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. But, that's a topic for another video. Now, you do have to wonder, with an unfriendly Iran just across the Persian Gulf, and US senators considering halting military aid, and after bearing witness to the disastrous US withdrawal from Afghanistan and how that operation was conducted, might the Saudis be considering some new strategic arrangements? And if they do turn to China for military protection and access to arms, again, that is a death knell for the petrodollar system. Now, in addition to planning an alternative reserve currency, the BRICS nations are also laying the groundwork for a de-dollarized financial system. In 2014, BRICS established the New Development Bank, an alternative loan mechanism to the IMF and World Bank. An alternative to the Western SWIFT payment system has also been developed, labeled the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, or CIPS. And all of these preparations are for a reason. The dollar's status as the world reserve currency has never been more tenuous. For now, the petrodollar continues to function. The US and Saudi Arabia are still allies. But while its demise is not guaranteed, it does seem much more likely now than at any time in the history of the arrangement. So what will it mean if BRICS expands and the Saudis abandon the petrodollar? Well, in a multipolar world in which a large portion of the world's raw material resources are in the hands of an organization opposed to US hegemony, in which nations are less interested in the US dollar as a store of value and a means of settling bilateral trade, the math is pretty simple. In that world, the US dollar-denominated price of just about everything, from gold to silver to bread to gasoline and even the roof over your head, is going to be much higher. It also likely means austerity for US entitlement programs and a generally diminished standard of living throughout the West. But the good news is that for those who are prepared, times of great change can also be times of tremendous opportunity. So it's best that we get ready for the end of the petrodollar rather than hide our heads in the sand. And luckily, the recipe is simple. Get out of debt, learn skills, stock up on essentials before the prices skyrocket, and get some wealth into tangible assets like physical gold and silver. And mentally prepare yourself for some tough times ahead. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Smart Silver Stacker,